The Russians are having another massive crisis in the South Caucasus. Honestly, it looks like a cheap geopolitical drama, where Moscow is about to be left at the altar like a rejected groom. Right now, Armenia seems to be driving the final nails into the coffin of its political and military ties with Russia. First, we had Volodymyr Zelensky's historic visit to Yerevan. This caused an absolute panic for Russian Foreign Minister spokesperson Maria Zakharova. Her hands were shaking so bad, and this time it clearly wasn't because of her usual morning hangover. Then came the Armenian-EU summit, where Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan was warmly shaking hands with European leaders. That was the last straw. Vladimir Putin himself stepped in trying to scare Armenia by saying they would end up like Ukraine if they keep moving west. So what is actually happening between Moscow and Yerevan? Why is Russia openly threatening Armenia, a country that is still technically its ally? And how is Armenia turned to the west becoming a total disaster for Russian influence in the region? My name is Nikita Komar. Let's see how we got here. Just recently, Kremlin got so offended by Yerevan that they officially recalled their ambassador Sergei Kopyrkin. In plain English, this basically means we are panicking so hard you can see it from space. They are furious because Armenia is rapidly getting closer to the European Union. Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan is now openly stating that his country wants to join the EU. You see, the big problem here is that the Russians have their own fake version of EU, called the Eurasian Economic Union. And Moscow is losing its mind because literally nobody sees any real economic future in it anymore. Yeah, imagine that. Here is the funny thing. To get into European Union, you actually have to work hard, do reforms, go through endless negotiations and win political debates. But with Russian Eurasian Union, the only serious problem is trying to leave it. Sure, they say joining is voluntary, but Vladimir Putin is already threatening Armenia with a full-scale war just for thinking about the leaving.
You see, we're currently witnessing everything that's happening on the Ukrainian front. But how did it all start? With Ukraine's attempt to join the EU. All of this eventually led to a government coup, the events in Crimea, the situation in southeastern Ukraine, and the armed conflict. That's where it all ended up.
By the way, everyone who believes that conspiracy theory about NATO expansion needs to listen to Putin's words very carefully. You know, those people who claim Russia attacked Ukraine only because Ukraine wanted to join NATO. As we can clearly see, the Russian dictator himself admit that the real trigger was Ukrainian wanting to join the EU, which obviously had nothing to do with Russia's security concerns they've been crying about for the last 12 years.